Tens of millions of Americans are about to face something they have never experienced before. A winter storm so massive, so cold, so unprecedented that meteorologists are calling it historic. But here is what nobody is telling you. The real danger is not what you think it is. This weekend, a zone stretching from New Mexico to Virginia, covering over 2,000 miles, will be paralyzed. We are talking about an area larger than Western Europe. And the question everyone needs to ask right now is this: are you in the impact zone? Because if you are, the next 72 hours will determine whether you are prepared or caught completely off guard. Here is the shocking truth. Weather models that usually disagree are showing the same terrifying scenario. The European model, the American GFS model, the Canadian model, all of them pointing to one conclusion. This is not a normal winter storm. This is a monster. Let me give you the first critical number. 60 to 90% probability of significant impacts across the entire southern United States. That is not a guess. That is data from the Weather Prediction Center. When these percentages climb this high, this far in advance, meteorologists pay attention, and you need to as well. But wait. At the 30-second mark, I promised you something valuable. Here it is. The exact timeline of when this storm hits your area. Because timing is everything, and knowing when to act could save your life. Friday evening. Texas and Oklahoma. Snow begins falling. Not light flurries. Heavy, wet snow mixing with sleet. By Saturday morning, the entire South lights up. Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia, all of them under assault from winter weather. By Saturday night, the storm reaches peak intensity, and this is where it gets dangerous. Why dangerous? Because we are not talking about snow in areas that know how to handle snow. We are talking about ice, freezing rain, sleet, in regions where a half-inch of ice shuts down entire cities for weeks. Here is a number that should terrify you. 1.5 to 2 inches of ice accumulation. That is the forecast for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Do you know what 1.5 inches of ice does to power lines? It snaps them like twigs. Do you know what it does to trees? Turns them into weapons that crash through roofs and onto cars. Power outages. That is the hidden killer in this storm. Not the snow, not the cold, the power outages. And here is what the authorities are not emphasizing enough. Some areas will be without power for days, maybe weeks, in temperatures that will drop into the teens and single digits. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine waking up Sunday morning, no heat, no electricity, outside temperature 12 degrees Fahrenheit, ice coating everything, trees down across roads, power lines sparking on the ground, no way to drive anywhere even if you wanted to. This is not fear-mongering. This is the forecast. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds extreme. Models always overdo it. They always predict the worst, and it never happens. Fair point. Except this time is different, and I am about to tell you exactly why. High pressure. Not just any high pressure. Record-setting high pressure. A massive dome of Arctic air so strong, so deep, so persistent that it is going to bulldoze its way down from Canada, through the Midwest, and park itself right over the southern United States. This high-pressure system is forecasted to be one of the strongest ever recorded in this region during winter. What does that mean in plain English? It means the cold air wins. Usually, winter storms in the south are marginal. Temperatures hover around 32 degrees. You get a mix. Sometimes it changes to rain. The warm air fights back. Not this time. This time, the cold air is so overwhelming that warm air does not stand a chance. Here is another number for you. Negative numbers. Yes, you heard that right. Parts of Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas could see temperatures drop below 0 Fahrenheit by Wednesday morning. Not wind chill. Actual air temperature. When was the last time Atlanta saw negative temperatures? Never in modern record keeping. But let me take you deeper. Because there is a twist in this forecast that will determine who gets buried in snow and who gets encased in ice. And this is the part you need to pay very close attention to, because it affects you directly. There are two scenarios playing out in the models, two camps, and meteorologists are split on which one is right. The first scenario, the colder scenario, shown by the GFS model, keeps the storm farther south and dumps heavy snow from northern Texas all the way to Virginia. We are talking about 12 to 18 inches of snow in places like Little Rock, Memphis, Nashville, Charlotte, cities that have not seen snow like that in decades. The second scenario, shown by the European and Canadian models, trends the storm slightly north. This sounds better, right? Less snow for the south. Wrong. Because when the storm trends north, it does not bring less impact. It brings a different kind of impact: ice. Here is why. When the storm shifts north, it pulls warmer air aloft, not at the surface, aloft. So what happens? Precipitation starts as snow, falls through a warm layer, melts into rain, then refreezes before hitting the ground. That is sleet. Or worse, it stays liquid until it hits the frozen surface. That is freezing rain. Sleet you can shovel. It is annoying but manageable. Freezing rain? Freezing rain is catastrophic. A quarter inch of freezing rain makes roads impassable. A half inch brings down tree limbs. An inch snaps power lines. And remember that number I gave you earlier? 1.5 to 2 inches. So which scenario is right? Here is the truth. We do not know yet, and that is okay, because both scenarios lead to the same outcome: major crippling winter weather across the southern United States. The only question is the exact type and location. But here is something you can count on: the areas in purple on the hazard maps. That is where ice is forecast. Dallas through Monroe, Louisiana, up into northern Alabama, through Mississippi, Atlanta, over into South Carolina. This zone is going to get hammered with ice, no matter which model is right. Now let me give you the most important information in this entire video. The 3-minute 20-second mark. This is the part you cannot miss. I am about to tell you exactly what you need to do right now to prepare. Not tomorrow, not Friday, right now. Step 1. Water. You need 1 gallon per person per day, minimum 3 days. But I recommend 7 days, because if ice takes out the power grid, water treatment plants go down. Pumps stop working. No water pressure, no water. Step 2. Food. Non-perishable. Things you can eat cold. Because if the power goes out, you cannot cook. Peanut butter, crackers, canned goods, protein bars. Enough for 7 days. Step 3. Heat. This is critical. If you have a fireplace, stock up on wood. Now. Not Friday. Now. If you have a generator, test it. Make sure it runs. Fill your gas cans. If you do not have backup heat, you need a plan. Where will you go if your house becomes uninhabitable? Step 4. Medicine. If you take daily medication, make sure you have extra. Pharmacies will be closed. Roads will be impassable. You cannot count on a refill. Step 5. Cash. ATMs will not work without power. Credit card machines will not work. Have cash on hand. Step 6. Charge everything. Every phone. Every laptop. Every battery pack. Every device. Charge it fully before Friday. Because once the power goes out, you are on your own. Step 7. Fill your car with gas. Do not wait. Lines will form. Stations will run out. Do it today. Now, some of you are thinking, this guy is being dramatic. Maybe. But let me ask you this. What is the downside of being prepared? You spent $50 on extra food and water. You filled your gas tank. You charged your devices. Storm does not hit as hard as forecast. You use the food next week. No harm done. But what is the downside of not being prepared? You are trapped in a freezing house with no food, no water, no heat, no way to call for help. Which risk do you want to take? Let me give you another number. 24 to 48 hours. That is how long you have before winter storm watches turn into warnings. Across the entire South, from Texas to Virginia. By Thursday night, Friday morning, those warnings will be in effect. And when that happens, everyone will rush to the store at the same time. Shelves will empty. Gas stations will run dry. Do not be that person scrambling at the last minute. Here is something else you need to know. Travel. If you have plans this weekend to drive anywhere, cancel them. I do not care if it is your cousin's wedding. I do not care if you have concert tickets. Cancel. Reschedule. This is not worth dying over. And yes, people will die in this storm. They always do. Because they think they can make it. They think their four-wheel drive SUV can handle it. It cannot. Ice does not care about four-wheel drive. Ice does not care about snow tires. Ice turns every vehicle into a 2-ton sled with no control. And when you lose control on ice, bad things happen fast. Here is a fact. For every 1 degree the temperature drops below freezing during an ice storm, crash rates triple. We are talking about temperatures in the teens and 20s during heavy ice accumulation. You do not want to be on the road. Now, let me show you the broader picture, because this storm is not just about this weekend. This is the beginning of a pattern shift. After this storm passes, we do not go back to normal. We do not warm up into the 50s and 60s. No, the pattern stays cold. It stays active. It stays stormy. Additional winter storms are possible next week. And the week after, we could be looking at multiple rounds of winter weather through the end of January and into February. This is a pattern change. And pattern changes can last weeks or even months. Here is why this is happening. The polar vortex. You have heard that term before. Usually it stays locked up over the Arctic. But this year, it is wobbling. It is stretching. Lobes of the polar vortex are dipping south, way south. And when that happens, Arctic air floods into the United States. This is not normal for the South. Places like Dallas, Atlanta, Charlotte, they are not supposed to see Arctic air masses, but they are about to. And here is the kicker. This Arctic air is not just cold, it is dry. And dry cold feels even colder than moist cold. Wind chills could drop into the negative teens and negative 20s across the deep South. Negative 20-degree wind chills in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Georgia. Do you understand how dangerous that is? Frostbite in minutes. Hypothermia in less than an hour without proper clothing. This is life-threatening cold. But here is where it gets interesting. There is a conflict in the forecast, a battle between two weather features, and this battle will determine the final outcome. On one side, you have the massive high pressure bringing the cold. On the other side, you have a low-pressure system called the Baja Low. This low pressure develops off the coast of California and Mexico, and how it interacts with the main storm system determines everything. If the Baja Low stays separate and does not integrate, you get the colder, snowier solution. The GFS model solution: snow from Texas to Virginia, heavy snow, measurable snow in places that almost never see it. If the Baja Low integrates and merges with the main system, you get the warmer, icier solution, the Canadian model solution: less snow, more ice, and a secondary storm system that develops off the East Coast and brings heavy snow to the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. This is called a Miller B setup. And for weather nerds, this is fascinating. For people just trying to survive the weekend, it is confusing. But here is what you need to know. Either way, you are getting hit. The only question is snow or ice. And honestly, both are bad. Here is something most people do not realize. Snow is easier to deal with than ice. Yes, 12 inches of snow is a lot, but you can shovel snow. You can plow snow. Roads can be cleared. Power lines usually stay up in pure snow. It is heavy, it is annoying, but it is manageable. Ice is a different beast. You cannot shovel ice. You cannot plow ice. Salt does not work when temperatures are in the teens. And ice brings down everything. Trees, power lines, entire sections of the electrical grid. Ice storms cause more damage than snowstorms. Every single time. And this storm is forecast to produce both. Snow in some areas, ice in others, and a mix in between. This is the worst-case scenario for emergency management, because you cannot prepare for one type of event. You have to prepare for everything. Let me give you a comparison. Remember the ice storm that hit the South in 2014? The one that stranded thousands of people on highways in Atlanta? That was a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of ice. This storm is forecast to produce 3 to 4 times that amount in some areas. 3 to 4 times worse than the storm people still talk about a decade later. Here is another comparison. The snowstorm that hit the Carolinas in 2000. Some areas got 2 feet of snow. It crippled the region for a week. This storm has the potential to match or exceed that in certain areas. We are talking about once in a generation, maybe once in a lifetime impacts. Now, I know some of you watching this are in the northern states, And you are thinking, what is the big deal? We get this kind of weather all the time. Here is the difference. You have infrastructure. You have snowplows. You have salt trucks. You have experience. The South does not. Most southern cities have a handful of plows. They do not stockpile salt. They do not have experience dealing with this. And the people do not know how to drive in it. That is not an insult. It is a fact. If you only see snow once every 5 years, you do not develop the skills to handle it. That is why a storm like this in the South is exponentially more dangerous than the same storm in Minnesota. Here is a statistic. Traffic fatalities during winter storms are 8 times higher in southern states compared to northern states. 8 times. Because people do not know how to react. They drive too fast, they brake too hard, they do not leave enough space, and they end up in the ditch or worse. So, if you live in the impact zone and you think you will just tough it out, drive carefully, and be fine, you are wrong. Stay home. Period. If your employer tells you to come to work during this storm, tell them no. Your life is worth more than a shift at work. This is not normal weather. Here is what is going to happen Friday night into Saturday. Snow breaks out across Texas and Oklahoma. Heavy snow, several inches. By Saturday morning, the entire South is covered. Snow in Dallas, ice in Shreveport. Snow in Little Rock, ice in Memphis. Snow in Nashville, ice in Birmingham. Snow in Atlanta, ice in Columbia. Snow in Charlotte, ice in Raleigh, and everything in between. By Saturday afternoon, the storm is at peak intensity. Precipitation rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in some areas. That is incredible. That is blizzard rate snowfall in the South. And it is not just snow, it is thunder snow. Lightning and thunder during a snowstorm. That is how much energy this system has. By Saturday night, roads are completely impassable. Interstates shut down. Emergency services cannot respond. You are on your own. If you have a medical emergency, you cannot get help. If your house catches fire, the fire truck cannot reach you. This is the reality of a major winter storm in an unprepared region. By Sunday morning, the snow and ice begin to taper off in the western areas. But the cold intensifies. Temperatures drop into the single digits. Any moisture on the ground freezes solid. And now you are dealing with the aftermath. Downed trees, power outages, no heat, and no help coming anytime soon. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the cold persists. Temperatures stay below freezing. Nothing melts. The ice remains. The snow remains. And in some areas, another system approaches. More snow, more ice. Insult to injury. Here is the extended forecast. Cold through the end of January. Multiple storm systems possible. This is not a one-and-done event. This is the beginning of a prolonged winter siege. And if you are not prepared for the first storm, you definitely will not be ready for the second or third. Let me tell you about the solar activity connection. We just had a massive X-class solar flare. It launched a coronal mass ejection directly at Earth. We experienced G4 geomagnetic storm conditions, almost G5. Auroras were visible as far south as the southern United States. What does this have to do with the winter storm? Possibly nothing. Possibly everything. Some research suggests solar activity influences atmospheric circulation patterns. Does it make storms stronger? We do not know for certain, but it is an interesting correlation. Here is what we do know for certain. The jet stream is buckling. The polar vortex is displaced. Arctic air is flooding south. And a massive winter storm is bearing down on the southern United States. These are facts, not speculation, not hype. Facts based on meteorological data. Now, some final critical information. If you lose power during this storm and you use a generator, do not run it inside your house. Do not run it in your garage. Do not run it near windows or doors. Carbon monoxide kills. Every winter storm, people die from carbon monoxide poisoning because they brought the generator inside to stay warm. Do not be that person. If you use space heaters, keep them away from curtains, furniture, anything flammable. Do not leave them running while you sleep. House fires during winter storms are common because people are desperate for heat and they make dangerous choices. If you have to go outside during the storm, dress in layers. Cover all exposed skin. Frostbite can occur in less than 10 minutes in extreme cold with wind. If your skin starts to tingle or go numb, get inside immediately. Watch for signs of hypothermia, shivering, confusion, slurred speech, drowsiness. If someone shows these signs, warm them gradually. Do not use hot water. Do not rub their skin. Gradual warming. And seek medical attention if possible. Check on your neighbors, especially elderly neighbors, especially people who live alone. They might need help. They might not have supplies. A simple knock on the door could save a life. If you have pets, bring them inside. Do not leave them outside in this cold. They will freeze. If you have livestock, make sure they have shelter and access to unfrozen water. Here is the bottom line. This storm is real. It is coming. It is going to be bad. How bad depends on exactly where you live and which model solution verifies. But either way, impacts will be significant. Either way, you need to prepare. Either way, you need to take this seriously. The next 72 hours are critical. Use this time wisely. Get your supplies. Make your plans. Charge your devices. Fill your gas tank. Stock up on food and water. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. One more thing before I finish. The next video will break down the hour-by-hour timeline for specific cities: Dallas, Little Rock, Memphis, Nashville, Birmingham, Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Richmond. I will tell you exactly when the snow starts, when it changes to ice, when it ends, and what temperatures to expect. That video drops tomorrow. You do not want to miss it, because timing is everything in storm preparation. This is not just another winter storm. This is historic. This is the kind of storm people will talk about for years. Be ready, stay safe, and remember, no travel is worth your life. Stay home this weekend, ride it out, and we will get through this together. The weather does not care about your plans. It does not care about your schedule. It does not care if you think you can handle it. The weather is coming, and it is bringing cold like the South has not seen in a generation. Prepare now, not later. Now. Your life might depend on it.